is going on, everybody? We are back once again with another edition of Wrestling Republic's daily broadcast. It is Thursday, August the 29th. 29. I'm excited about that. Sorry, that was a New Girl reference there, if anyone ever watched that show. But we are back, and I'm excited to be here. It was the follow-up Dynamite to All In. We are a few weeks away from All Out. I'm jacked about that. We've got a lot to get into. We've got a sweet crew, a return to the Thursday crew. He'll be the throwback today. It's the Tuesday Night Delight himself. Get your twos up in the DMV. Shoddy, what's up?
Finally, the Ark has come back to a Thursday podcast. It's been a while. It's been almost over a month now. So I am excited. I am excited to talk about Dynamite. I sneezed a couple times before the show started because I am a sicko. Let's get it.
Absolutely. I'm excited about it as well. Up next, though, we've got our reviewer himself, the guy that reviewed Dynamite last night, and my broadcast partner on Monday during Progress, David Sheldon. Good to see you as usual. And yes, David, you are right about that production mistake there, but it is so good to have you on a Thursday.
Hello, everybody. I'm going to use the same catchphrase as last week and hope it catches on. Hello, it is the SHEL Don of Wrestling Republic. I'm going to keep going until I lose interest in it. Hello, everybody. Very excited to be here to talk about AEW Dynamite, the show that I reviewed this morning. You can go and check out my review on the website right now. A very eventful AEW Dynamite, an exciting AEW Dynamite. And yes, an exciting day for wrestling. We have Impact, ROH, and MLW coming up tonight. And then we go into an incredibly busy weekend of pro wrestling from all companies across the world. So, yeah, it's a very exciting time to be a wrestling fan. And it's a very exciting time to talk AEW.
Absolutely. And last night's show was electric. I thought a lot of moving parts coming out of a pay-per-view like we saw this weekend at All In. It is always difficult to follow up, but I thought the job was well done. They did as well as they could in this scenario. And interestingly enough, I think we got arguably the biggest name who didn't appear at All In. And that's our first topic of this afternoon, evening, morning, wherever you're going. And that's Jon Moxley. A little bit cryptic, which sort of, I don't know, unsure. What is he teasing? He's got to have a conversation with Darby Allin. Why? About what? Not totally sure. Could be anything here. I'm going to start with you, Shotty. Where is Mox going with this?
Man, I honestly I had to think on it because initially when it happened, I was like kind of utterly surprised, kind of shocked. Obviously we didn't get Moxley at all in this past year, so it was good to see him. I always felt like I think you and I maybe had the conversation, Clark, where I was like, Moxley kind of needs us to miss him a little bit because he's been the active workhorse for a while. So a much needed time off from our television screen was, important. And coming back like this, it gives you the mystery to me, and a lot of it is tied towards what happened at the end of the show. It feels like Moxley is doing a little bit what Chad Gable did in regards to the Alpha Academy. I feel like we're alluding to him creating a different stable, a different faction, and it it comes within the same bit of um, purpose. I feel like the Blackpool Combat Club is kind of steered away maybe what his vision is. Maybe we're getting a little bit more of a darker, edgier, you know, side of Moxley, and I'm here for it, bro. I liked it a lot. I think the idea of him maybe creating a new faction. We had Marina Shafir come out at the end looking like an absolute beast, just judo slamming random like security guards backstage. I think it could be something interesting. Obviously, with the Blackpool Combat Club, I feel like it was a bit of a workhorse type of thing. But what about just a bunch of fighters, a bunch of reckless people, maybe some MMA back to it, right? And I know the the thing is everyone's saying that Shane tied to it, right? Because you don't own AEW anymore. And I really, really hope so. Because if I was to paint the picture, because I'm the only person on Wrestling Republic that actively has been begging for Shane McMahon to come to AEW. I want Shane and Moxley to work together, and I want them to kind of have a Raw Underground type of faction, some hardcore, MMA focused, and we got Marina Shafir there. There's a person I would add towards it, and he's a free agent. A lot of people ain't talking about him. I would add Bobby Lashley to this group.
Ooh.
If you can get Mox, Lashley in a unit together and help them kind of just beat down BCC and bring us to a potential Moxley versus Danielson title feud, I don't know, man. The wheels is turning in my head right now, but
There's a lot of juice there, and I hear where you're coming from for sure. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Keep going.
oh no, you good. No, I mean, it is a lot of juice towards it. I mean, I think you think about it. I feel like AEW is becoming very hot again. And I think a lot of the focus of its heat is the storylines have been really, really good. And even like we're talking about yesterday's episode, like I agree with David said, it was a very meaningful episode because it was storyline focused. I felt like I was watching more of a WWE centric show than an AEW centric show, but in a good way. I feel like you have 2 weeks to build up to All Out. You probably built 4 stories for All Out in the matter of a 2-hour show, and that's
Yes.
incredible. And then you add that element to what Moxley started the show and ended the show. This gets us all re-interested in Moxley and having him come back into the focus of AEW in a huge manner, one manner that it hasn't been like that for a while. Because for Mox, in my opinion, I feel like the last year or so we've got a little bored of what he's doing because they've had to rely on him so much, and we didn't get an opportunity to miss him. This is kind of a little bit of a re-image of him a bit. It's still Mox, same guy, but it's something different that we haven't seen in a while. So, mystery is always gonna have us excited. So yeah.
Absolutely. And I hear a lot of where you're coming from there. Numero One Superfly also in the comments, friend of the show, seems to agree as well. He said John Moxley is teasing that at All Out he will align with Shane McMahon to reveal Shane McMahon now owns AEW, with Moxley being given a guaranteed championship match against Bryan Danielson. That's interesting.
My man, my number one Superfly always wanted to be Shane McMahon
Yeah.
owning AEW, and the fact that it may happen, I feel like we need to like send him like a Wrestling Republic like
It's
T-shirt or
like
something like that.
award-winning fan, Numero One Superfly. Absolutely. Yes. We've got Kafkaske. Hello, Shad, Clark, and David. Thank you. What's going on, my friend? Good to have you back. As always, you said Brawl Out. That's hilarious. And then Soul Sessions, our good friend Soul himself, said love for the new Mox faction to be called the Bare Knuckle Syndicate or Underground Brawlers, since it seems to be MMA or brawler type wrestlers in this faction. I saw this a bit differently, though. The Darby Allin part of this equation, when he said we don't have a lot in common, but at the same time we do have a lot in common. Even though it's a little convoluted when he delivers the line about not owning AEW, I actually see him as the opposition. Like Mox knows something, and it's time he has a conversation with Darby because they represent the opposite of the McMahons running a wrestling promotion. I think he's building a team to try to detour Shane from taking over because he's sick of it. He's upset about it. And he's got the scoop. He knows because he's got the history in the WWE. He's smart. He's not going to get outsmarted again like he did there. It's not going to happen the same way. And it fits inside of the John Moxley narrative so well. I think it's 50-50 because it could really go either way after last night. And that is where the brilliance of that promo segment lied in my eyes. It's just vague enough that the wheels are spinning both directions for people that watch the product as often as us. This is where AEW is doing really, really good things, to your point, Shad, earlier, when it comes to storytelling, because this could go a number of different ways. There's a spider web of things that could happen when it comes to this John Moxley storyline, whether it involves Shane McMahon or not. And that's the most fascinating part. David, you reviewed the show last night. Got to get your thoughts on this one. Give me the scoop.
Absolutely. First of all, before I start talking, I forgot to mention in my little intro, I'm full up with a cold, so I have just been sneezing my lungs out. So apologies if sneezes and sniffles come throughout the next 5 minutes and the rest of the show. Yeah, the Moxley thing I thought was a bit weird, and I quite like it. I think that it's very cryptic. It's very sort of mysterious, very little given away. Whether that's a scripting problem where they meant to reveal more than they did, I don't think that's the case. I think this was meant to be very mysterious and up in the air. I'm kind of hoping it's not Shane, because I don't really think Moxley and Shane in any combination. I don't see the point of that. I think Moxley doesn't need Shane. There'd be wrestlers who would be better suited to working with Shane if Shane's coming in than John. I like the idea more of it being a more sort of MMA-based group, or group that has the sort of fundamentals of that submission training that Regal talked so much about in the BCC. Because you obviously have the Blackpool Compact Club now, where Pac seems to have just completely come in and switched out with John, which I think will be great. I think Pac, Yuta, and Castagnoli are great as they are with Danielson over there. And I think with the Moxley and Marina Shafir partnership specifically, obviously we know John Moxley's been participating in jiu-jitsu tournaments and all the rest of it. And, you know, he's partnering now with a very submission-based wrestler. There is a wrestler, if that is what they're building, and I should stress, we don't know what they're building here. They kept it very vague, and I like that. But I don't want to specify too far ahead and make fantasy book myself into something that doesn't happen, because it's so... This could go in one of 100 different ways. If it is a group that's based on that type of technique, I know we talk about not bringing any wrestlers in, but if this is finally my chance to see Timothy Thatcher back on a wide platform,
Yes,
and you get any better chance than bring Thatcher in, because I think Timothy Thatcher is unbelievably underrated and always has been as a wrestler. And you know, I think if there's ever a time to get him, and I know Gunther talked recently about Thatcher sort of having a very specific style that he sticks to, and that won't draw him as much money in the big leagues, but props to him for sticking to his guns. But I feel like this is a great chance for it if you wanted to do it. Maybe that's just my Timothy Thatcher fandom talking, I don't know. But in any case, I like this idea of being a different group from the BCC. I think that this should lead to a clash, particularly with Danielson and Moxley. But again, we have no idea where this is going. And that's what makes it interesting. I don't think it was the greatest promo. I'm not foaming at the mouth to work out what happens next week. I prefer John Moxley's sort of freewheeling promos than some of the stuff. I was a little bit overly scripted what he said. He didn't fully sound natural, but again, could equally be fully part of the character. I think this is interesting. I'm not as interested in this as I am with other stuff on the show that happened this week. I think there's stuff that I'm far more excited about than this, but this, I'm kind of in the intrigued phase. I'm just sort of like, okay, this was a decent first start. Let's see where they go with this, because they could go in a very interesting direction.
I agree. And I think multiple directions. Like, there's a lot of ways you can go. I love the call on Timothy Thatcher. That makes a ton of sense. There's also one Olympic gold medalist free agent out there that was just cut by the Buffalo Bills, and boo me if you want, but Gable Steveson might fit that aesthetic when it comes to
I'm not sure
the intense grappling stuff.
I think I think you're thinking the right family. I think there's a actual better person for the pro wrestling standpoint.
Yeah.
Bobby Stevenson, Damon Kemp.
Yeah. The problem you have with the problem you got with Gable is that while in the amateur setting he brings that level of intensity and showmanship, he did not show it at NXT. Whether you liked the Corbin match or not, and I remember the arguments between you and Kobe Clark on that one, legendary stuff. You know, he never had the intensity. Damon Kemp did. He did have the intensity, and he was more interesting. There is also a Ronda Rousey out there who has. I do think
with the brain stuff, though, she's in trouble there.
Yeah, and I also think with regards to Ronda, if you've got Marina, I don't really see why you'd bring Ronda in. But we could be. I'm only thinking about this because I just think that's the only connection I can draw at the moment between John Moxley and Marina Shafir is martial arts.
I believe both Extreme Couture, that gym in Vegas, is where they both train when it comes to jiu-jitsu. So that's a connection that exists.
It's much needed for Marina Shafir, in my opinion, though, because I
Yeah.
feel like she is a wrestler that's been directionless since she's gotten to AEW. I feel like they've tried stuff. She's obviously been kind of like an enforcer prior and whatnot, but in this role, like with you rocking with Moxley, you're bound to have a level of success in a way if you're
Yeah.
given the time. And I feel like that rejuvenates another woman in the division. And I feel like
Yeah.
that adds new life to Marina Shafir on a Wednesday. Like I feel like as great of an improvement the AEW women's division did. You can argue that after this week. Obviously, we have a topic about that today off of timing. Um, but they do need. I feel like they could always benefit having more women on TV. Not saying they need to sign a whole bunch of
Yeah.
women, but the
Yeah.
women that they do have on the
They've got
roster,
so
like a
many.
Marina, like the women that are
They've
Yeah.
got so many.
on ROH and whatnot. So
Yeah.
it's gonna be
She's
interesting to see how she does.
yeah, she's done some good stuff on Ring of some decently good stuff on Ring of Honor. But the problem with Ring of Honor, and it's the same thing with Layla Hirsch and Diamante and Athena, even to the top level, is nobody watches it. So
Yeah.
it's you can do the best work in the world, nobody currently watching, sadly, aside from me and about 15 others.
Eh,
Yeah.
The the
eh,
plumber, the
one
baker, the candlestick maker.
one one
There's aren't many.
I was gonna say
one
we got
One
to get
last
going,
thing.
guys.
One last thing.
Go
One
ahead.
last thing on that though. I will say, and I also like her being in it because I think it does mask the fact that she's not a great promo. So having her more as a quiet, just killer benefits her. So yeah.
I agree 100%. Lord Vice of Nurgle in the comments shouted us all out. What's going on, my friend? Thank you for tuning in as always. But let's do move on because we could probably talk about this all show because I think it was so cryptic is the funniest part.
Yeah.
But speaking of wild stuff, I isn't am I under the wrong impression? I think it's actually Swerve versus Page 4.
It is. Swerve versus
It is
Page.
for
We've
Yeah.
forgotten
yeah.
about the Dynamite
Ben,
match. Never forget about the
Ben,
Dynamite match, Ben.
Ben, dang
Mentioned it in
it.
the
And
promo, Ben.
Dang it,
You
Ben.
mentioned
You,
it
yeah,
in
you
the
just embarrass
promo.
all of us.
Hangman said it last
Yeah.
night that he
It's,
couldn't beat him in 3 tries.
nah,
Boo
this
this
is
man. Boo this man.
I'm blaming Ben Allison, the hardest working man in show business. Just was like, look, I'm not on this show. I kind of wish I was. And so I'm just gonna mess with them, give them a bad graphic, try to embarrass all of them. But we are very aware it is Swerve Hangman 4 inside of a steel cage. I'm
Mhm.
jacked about this one. This is the most modern storyline going in AEW because pretty much everywhere else historically, the crowd would be on the opposite side, but they're not.
Mhm.
Hangman Page is the heel, and Swerve is the face. And Swerve is still stalking his family and talking about his pregnant wife. Like, what is going on here? It works, and I get it. And Hangman is the coward for not sticking up for his family and not doing anything at the end of the segment last night. And Hangman is gonna be locked in the cage with Swerve, and Swerve can prove it again. But I've almost in my lifetime never seen somebody on the other end of a "you've only beat me by interference" promo be the one that everyone cheers for. It is so modern story to go with the flow storytelling, but I dig it. This is going to be a bloodbath. This is going to be absolutely a bloodbath. Shadi, what did you think of the segment last night? And how about inside of a cage?
Oh man, it's only right that I make my return on a topic about a feud that we talked about when it initially happened, and to see where it was from there to where it is now. This is probably two guys that are attached to the hip for wrestling history. Like they are the epitome of just mere like rivals to the core. It's Gary versus Ash vibes in the sense of it. And man, last night was no short of anything but sensational. I mean, Hangman, great win over Ishii. Swerve coming out and Swerve cut such a evil, sinister promo, in my opinion. Like it's just the fact that he is one step ahead of this guy in all facets of this storyline within this feud, and that's gonna be the potential fall for Hangman when he does go against Swerve. I like that Hangman is, angry about everything that he's done right and everything tied to family. I like you said, he shouldn't be the heel. He should be the baby face. But it's just a cool element, man. And Swerve not happy that Hangman interrupted during the match on Sunday. I think this is a great way to do it. I think a cage match is the perfect setting. You lock these two guys in a area where everything's enclosed. You know, Swerve isn't gonna have Nana. He's not gonna have the no. He's not gonna have him regardless because he's not in the faction anymore. But all those reasons that he tried to get help, all of that's out the window. They go one on one. It is going to be, like you said, a bloodbath. They are going to annihilate each other, and I'm super excited for it. This was a already ready-made feud that we were gonna get to an all out, and how we boosted and got us excited for it with the promo last night. Ah man, I can't. I'm gonna always love these two going against each other. They are wrestling soulmates, and it's the credit for both of them, man. These are two of the best guys in the business in general, but definitely two of the best guys in AEW. And I think it shows that, like, you know, man, I don't like doing comparisons, but like, I feel like we felt a way with Punk and Drew having their feud. I feel, me as a fan, I'm more invested in the Swerve and Hangman because I felt both feuds are very similar in ways where you're going
Hmm.
out about families and stuff. But like, I feel like the realism in AEW's feud with Hangman and Swerve has it more compelling because we've seen him break into his house, glance over his baby. We've seen him make remarks about his wife. Like, maybe it's just the fact that they go into more of a personal level that WWE might be afraid to do. But like, I really love it. This is like a damn near perfect feud in my opinion between these guys. And
Uh,
that's why, yeah, man, I love it. I'm so hyped for it. It's probably the most excited match I'm right now.
I do too, and I'm so with you there. I love the cage stipulation, and especially the interference thing. I know it's a little funky compared to normal stuff, but I had this wild idea. What if we have Hangman take out Nana next week, and they get to the cage match at All Out, and on the jumbotron they show Nana at Hangman's house,
That'd be crazy.
and that's how they cost Hangman the match again. Nana's not in the hospital. He's okay. He recovered in time, but no, he's at his house again.
Yeah,
Oh, I was like, oh, that'd be goosebumps. David, I want to
it's
get your thoughts.
yeah, that is terrific. I part of me wants this to be it for a while now, and I kind of feel like you blow it off here. You have Hangman get his win back, and then because he's not won yet, and I have Hangman win, and then we just we go from there. Because obviously then we go into Swerve page 5, and then it's like I love this story. It's amazing, but I think we've hit the point now. I think the feud has hit top animosity. Let's pay it off cleanly while we still can. The thing I wanted to bring up though, I found it fascinating. You talked about it being the most modern storyline. This because the heel face dynamic feels so off. Now, back in the late 1990s, there was a man named Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Yeah.
David, and Pillman. What? You're so right. I didn't even think about that.
Stone Cold Steve Austin was the most popular man in professional wrestling. He was also an absolutely hideous character who did hideously horrible things to people and was just the most vile, just vile bully. And yet everyone absolutely loved him. And
how did I forget about that?
To me, it's a phenomenal feud. To me, this does feel like a throwback to Austin Pillman, Austin Brett.
Where that's probably why I like it so much too.
Yeah. It feels like that sort of it's like things with Swerve is that you both want to boo and cheer him. I noticed when I was in Wembley for the Swerve Danielson thing, it was fascinating. We all booed Swerve very heavily because it's against Danielson. And yet we all still did that in the crowd, and we all still popped at certain spots, and we all still popped at certain things because you want to cheer Swerve, even in circumstances like that, because he's so cool. But equally, if you actually just look at and you want to boo Hangman, but if you just look at the breadth of this story, like you said, Hangman is probably right.
If any of us were in his shoes, we would probably feel the same way.
Upset as well.
Which makes it so interesting, and it's the tale as old as time with some of the best feuds. Is typically the heel is right and the face is wrong, but the face is being cool about it and the heel is being a baby about it.
Yep.
And that is where the dichotomy comes in. It's great stuff.
It is great stuff. It's classic. I agree, and a great shout on Stone Cold Pillman, because that's genius. It's so true, and it's spot on. Really quickly, my friends, if you haven't already checked out Next Level, please do. It's really simple. It's absolutely free. Go to nxconnect.me/Western Republic to see all of our content across all platforms, linked in one place. Let's move on to our third topic, though, of this evening, afternoon. Really depends on where you are. This is a global show, so it is what it is. David, Mariah May, your new AEW Women's World Champion. She brought the shovel for her old friend Tony Storm on this one. I want to get your thoughts on it. How did you feel about it? Oh no. Did David freeze?
You still hear me?
No,
Can you
you're
still
good
hear
now.
me?
You're
He's
good now.
back.
You're good now.
Yeah, now you're back.
Hello.
Go for it.
I disappeared for a second. I shouldn't be. I'm connected directly to the data. Anyway, I was going to say, I am in my wrestling historian mode today. Talked about Steve Austin Pillman earlier on. Does everyone remember a wrestler from the 1980s and 90s called Rick Rude?
Yes.
Who used to tell those bozos to keep the noise down while he unrobed for the viewing public? I got complete vibes of that in this promo. Now, I should say off the bat, I think the general women's, the general use of women on this show was poor. 3 minutes for Jamie Hayter and Harley Cameron, a totally fine squash. Probably should have been a squash, but you then need something else. Mercedes was funny but did nothing. This was funny but really did nothing for All Out. And every other segment on the show was designed to advance something for All Out or beyond All Out. This didn't really feel like it advanced anything. I love the gimmick. I like the idea of, the Rick Rude type thing of, I am better than you all. And this, slightly more sort of hypersexualized character. Because I think that suits who Mariah May is trying to be. With that said, also Tony Schiavone was very funny in this segment. Very props to him. His acting was very entertaining. Very Attitude Era again. Very sort of not even Attitude Era, sort of mid-90s sort of acting from Schiavone. But overall, like, the character is great. Didn't really do anything though. I was expecting something to happen. Someone would call a shot for Mariah. Tony would be there. I mean, it's fine. It's entertaining in the same way the Mercedes segment is entertaining. But when you haven't got much else on the show in terms of women's action, I then need you to make up for that in the storyline department. And for me, as great as I thought this segment was in terms of a brief entertainment, only went a minute or two. It was entertaining. I want more than that for my women's champion immediately off the bat of winning the world title at Wembley. And I don't think this was enough. Same as I don't think it was enough for Mercedes. I need more than this. I need to understand the directions that these characters are going in. I know where MJF's going, where Danielson's going, where Swerve's going, where the Bucks are going, where all these people are going. I don't know where Mariah May is going. I don't know where Mercedes Moné is going. I need more than that.
I would be inclined to very much agree with that, David. Yeah, it's not a ton more, but enough more that we have an understanding of the direction.
We have a women's match at All Out that was not really seen yesterday with Statlander and Willow as well, right?
Yeah.
I feel like they could have definitely utilized that. I agree 100% with David. I feel like time allocated needs to be used in a meaningful way. It's not just marking down time. Like, it's got to be something that gets fans, because if you throw stuff like this, then people are gonna have the excuse like, "Well, what's the purpose of it? They're not doing anything important," like type of ordeal. But shout outs to Brother Zay, man, shooting his shot at Miss Mercedes.
Well, look, I'll say this right on the Mercedes thing. The Mercedes thing, I give a tad more of a pass to. And the only reason I give a tad more of a pass to is because she's competing tomorrow.
Right.
For against Momo Watanabe. I don't know for
I
what
will be
titles.
live.
Ah, fantastic. I don't know
The
if
New
that is for
Japan
the
Strong.
TBS title
I'm
as
not.
well
No,
as the
no.
New Japan. Is it just for the New
It's
Japan
just the New
Strong?
Japan titles.
Then
Yeah,
I
just the
take it
New
all
Japan
back.
Strong title.
Then I take it all back. I was going to give them an out and say, well, you don't want to spoil the result if you go, buddy, if it's just for the New Japan Strong, then no, do better. Do better, AEW.
Yeah.
Okada's funny, though.
Yeah.
And,
Okada
yeah.
is funny.
Also, before we move on, can I very quickly,
Go ahead.
it's not listed, but there's something I have to bring up that I thought was really bad on this show and was indicative of other problems. I mentioned the Bucks earlier.
You have to, but I know exactly what you're going to say. Sorry, that just cracked me up because I know exactly what segment you're going to say.
I mentioned the Bucks earlier. The Grizzled Young Veterans did the same promo twice.
Yeah.
The exact same promo twice.
Like rewind.
I was watching it baffled, just watching it go, and it was directly after. This was the weakest part of the show because you had the Mercedes thing, which went nowhere. Then you had the Mariah thing, which really went nowhere, and then you had the veterans do the same promo twice. It was a point where I was just like, oh, structure. It's the reason I didn't give it full star structure for the show, despite really loving the show, because while I thought the matches and the segments were placed in a good order, stuff like that, that is just poor production and poor layout and things like that. So yeah, just wanted to mention that quickly because I know it's not listed, but it annoyed me to the nth degree.
Completely fair, David. Let's talk about an interesting end to the show here. It looks like Jack Perry himself, the scapegoat, doesn't even just look like, it's like pretty much official, is the next opponent for Bryan Danielson at All Out in Chicago. But why do we keep having people touch the title before they win it? It's bad luck. It's bad luck. It's always been bad luck. And I'm not superstitious, but I'm stitious enough. It bugs me every single time that they do it. Shoddy, is there any chance the scapegoat gets to pick up that title for real now that he ruined it karmically?
No, there's no way that he's going to become champion. And I don't know where we're leading with this. I don't know if this is I'm assuming this is our match for All Out. And I'm very much on the fence about it. I cut WWE slack all the time, so I gotta cut AEW slack. We're only 2 weeks away. There's not an ample amount of time to create like a big time program. But I don't know. Like, it's nothing against Jack Perry. I love the character work that he does. I think he's a very solid professional wrestler on the roster. But it's just the fact that it is champion versus champion. I feel like we can utilize his title and have it in the match and give someone else that is on a very talented roster of people on AEW an opportunity to go against Danielson. The promo itself was solid. Obviously, Danielson is going to fight for this belt until he loses it. And then once he loses it, we could assume that he's going to be done. That's awesome. I'm glad that we're going to get this super reign from him for however long it may be. But I don't know, Jungle Boy, the artist formerly known as Jungle Boy, the scapegoat Jack Perry, he doesn't feel like a viable threat. It does seem like it is just a first character that he's going to go against to start off the feud. It's cool. I'm all right. I'm all right with that. I don't think he needs to lose his belt. Obviously, as fans, we want to see a little bit more of a person that could potentially take the title off of him. But I guess it is what it is type of situation for me. And I think it's gonna lead to, of course, the New Age Elite versus Danielson dynamic because they're kind of the puppeteers within it. So it is what it is. I'm I'm about it.
I think that's totally fair, Shad. I mean, here's my thing with this. I think Scapegoat Jack is a legitimate threat in some ways. He's probably unlikely to win the title. But Soul, our good friend, asked also, Brian made it an open invitation. Perry answered, why are people mad? I don't think anyone's mad.
Ben is.
If I was mad at anything, it's this. Do not touch that champ. Chris Leclerc has it exactly right.
Unless you're
Don't
Joe Hendry, where
touch it.
you're waving it, because he might have broke the. That might be
So
the.
much more impactful if you pick up your own belt and you just look at the one on the floor, give it that stare, like that's mine next, and then exit. But when you pick it up, that's bad luck. Everyone knows.
We might need to
Everyone
we
knows.
might need to find the statistics of how many people have won or lost before holding the title right before the
Oh, that'd
match.
I mean, it's
be a
it's
long study to run,
cursed.
wouldn't it? Every single title match ever existed. What was all the programming before in hopes that they might lift the title?
We're gonna have to study the film. I bet it's probably like 80-20. If you touch it, you lose. That's
Yeah,
my guess.
I can see that.
Reckless speculation statistically, I'm going to go with 80-20. David, what were your thoughts on Jack Perry, the new challenger for the AEW World Heavyweight Championship?
Well, I'm gonna defend this. I don't think is it the most inspired way of using Danielson on a pay-per-view? Not really. Danielson did also have a match of the year contender last year with 1 day's notice against Ricky Starks. So I fully trust that this could be brilliant. Here's my thing with Scapegoat. Exactly as Shard said, you've only got 2 weeks to build a match. I don't think anyone's buying that. Whoever's wrestling him All Out, I don't think anyone's buying they're gonna win. Because I don't think they're not gonna win it at All Out, just All In, just to lose it at All Out. He's gonna be there for longer than that. I do think the promo was a little bit unclear as to whether this is whether every Danielson match is a retirement match or not. Because Perry said he wanted to retire Danielson, which made me think, right, great. Danielson, though, said in his promo that, the next time I lose, I'm done with full-time competition. Which I think still leaves it open to do part-time stuff. So I think they need to clarify that, whether that was a mistake by Danielson or a mistake by Perry. But they need to pick a lane and stick with it, because I think that'll change the way that these matches are viewed. My thing is, though, it's a first challenger for Danielson. It's not going to main event the show. I don't think anything is going to main event the show over Swerve Hangman 4. So you go with a relatively small challenger. Also to note, the show's in Chicago. So you're going to get Jack Perry, probably going to get Crimea River. It's probably going to be very over. The last time I remember him wrestling in Chicago was in New Japan Strong earlier this year, and he brought out the Crimea River jacket and was really heavily over in Chicago. So I'm hoping that the same thing will happen again. I think it'll be a great showcase for Perry to go up the card. It makes storyline sense. It's not the most oh my God, it's this dream match, but I'll be down for Scapegoat versus Danielson. I'm very high on Scapegoat. I think Jack Perry is really great. And I was not of that opinion until the Scapegoat character, which, look, I've still got my opinions on Brawlin last year, and I still don't particularly like either of the players involved. I respect Jack Perry and what he's done in rebuilding and really using it to his advantage, because he is over and he is a good character. And while I get the point about he already has a belt, you could put that match in instead. If you want to make the card less, doing Perry Danielson, it's the mid-card champion versus the world champion. It's not the most inspired, but Perry's not going to win. I don't think he should win. But I think if you can get a star-making performance out of Perry, it'll increase his TNT stock as well. And I think who is better to do that with than Danielson. So I get the criticisms. I don't get the hate. I don't get Ben's level of saying it's dreadful. Yeah. I don't understand how this decision gets you that riled, because frankly, I don't think it's interesting enough to rile you that much. It is, like Shard said, it's fine. And for me, if I get a great match out of it, which I think I will next weekend, then it's absolutely fine by me.
Yeah, it's like one of those things where it's like, it's not the most tantalizing. It's not like, oh my gosh, put it on a poster. But at the end of the day, to your point, you're looking at two of the most over stars in AEW on the roster in a big time match in Chicago. Things that make sense, like you said, with Jack Perry, like Shad, you mentioned earlier. Like it does add up. I have no issue. I don't hate it. I mean, honest to goodness, not to sound like a broken record, the only thing that bugged me is that it's like the 5th time this month we've seen someone pick up a title that isn't theirs.
Well, here's the thing too, man. I don't have an issue with it as much because there's bigger matches on the card. And
yes,
I know he's the world champion. He may be main event, but the bigger matches on the card deserve to get a good amount of time. Like Hangman and Swerve is a big time match. Osprey and Pac, big time match. Like you want to put a lot of focus on those matches. Like, man, we even talk about that. My man Pac just coming for blood after the Ricochet match on Osprey, hitting the Poison Rana on him. Like those are the type of stuff that are crazy, man. And like you don't need to have like, I don't know. I feel like it's okay just because it's 2 weeks away. I
Yeah.
think we're fine.
Yeah.
I think
Also,
it
just
makes
say-
sense. Go
Sorry, I
ahead,
was going to
David.
say just very quickly off the back of what Shad just said. If you want to get hyped for Osprey Pac, go and watch the only other singles match they've ever had, which is 2019 High Stakes Rev Pro. It's half an hour long and it's brilliant. Anyway, but sorry, Shad, I'll go back to the thing because you're absolutely right. There are bigger matches on the card. I think it's going to semi-main the show. I think it is going to
Honest
semi-main the show.
to goodness, by the way, though, David, to your point about Osprey Pac, if you want to get hyped about it, just go play a video game because that's what it's going to look like.
Yeah.
Like it's like you have two just humans that don't do things that normal people do in the
Sure.
ring. It's
Yeah.
going to be special. That one, I am beyond jacked for.
Oh, that
Yeah.
that match is gonna be crazy. That might, like, I feel like last month I saw like a bunch of matches that could potentially be match of the year, and like, are we? What is that? When's the day? Is it fall on the end of the August?
Yes.
No.
No, it's
No,
gonna
it'd
be
be
September.
September.
So
Yeah.
it will be the best match in September thus far.
Yeah.
probably.
I mean,
That's
the way I look at it too, like, there's been some complaints about the All In sort of overshadowing All Out because it was sort of the flagship event
It's
before.
next weekend. My bad. I'm tripping. There's
And
another pay per view this
'cause
weekend.
yeah. But I mean, being a Chicago guy myself and attending multiple All Outs, the way I look at it, they got it right this year, at least giving the week gap. Next year, it's going to be earlier in the
Mhm.
summer. That changes things drastically too. But the Chicago crowd always delivers. Last year is the one year where it was back to back. And you
Yeah.
even had the layer of CM Punk stuff. It's one of the most fun ones I've ever attended. It stunned the audience.
Before we wrap up, obviously, I just
Yeah.
want to give, like I said in the start of the show, I just want to give them credit. I think they did a very good job loading up matches for All Out
Yes.
within the build to All In, right? Nothing has to be, we got to get stuff done real quickly. Like MJF, Daniel Garcia. Oh my God, that happened last night.
Perfect.
That was probably one of the craziest.
It's
Like Daniel
perfect.
Garcia
To a
looked
lesser
like a.
extent, Hook Roddy Strong was built
Yes.
last night. Is Hook gone for the Jericho Vortex? Is
That
he?
could be a good.
Is he? Oh no,
Actually, that's-
Cassidy's in there instead. Cassidy's now in there
That's a-
instead.
That's a good matchup, though. Roddy versus Hook is going to be a good matchup.
I'm
Like-
excited about that. The
Like in ring
Hookster,
wise, I think that'd be a
everyone
good
knows
match.
I'm a Hookamaniac.
Roddy gonna have that boy working. Like that's gonna be a match that it's gonna be a lot different than a lot of other matches he has. So
100%. Okay, but seriously though, we could pretty much talk about AEW for the rest of the afternoon if we had the time. But that does bring us to the end of the show. Thank you everybody who tuned in. If you haven't liked and subscribed, please do. We'll be back same place, same time tomorrow. That's noon Pacific, 3 on the East Coast, 8 o'clock over in the UK, and of course 9 a.m. in Hawaii. Have an excellent Thursday afternoon. Have some fun. Bash at Berlin stuff coming tomorrow. And then we've got All Out coverage all next week. Talk to everybody soon. Have a great Thursday.